Alright guys, we're just about getting ready to start with the small scale group build. This is the 1928 Mercedes-Benz SSK, and after doing a little bit of research I found a few videos showing me what this car actually looks like, and there's quite a few details missing on this little kit. So I'm going to try and add some stuff to this, which is probably going to get me into trouble. But what the heck, we're going to do it anyway. So the first thing we have to start is by cutting the pieces from the sprue. So why don't we just get started with that? Now these parts are going to require quite a bit of cleaning up. As you can see, there's all sorts of nub marks we have to get rid of, edges that we have to clean up. This undercarriage here is going to require quite a bit of work, as I'm going to try and I have to figure out where the suspension is going to sit. And as far as I can tell, this is supposed to be a gas tank, but you can see how rough the casting is here on this particular undercarriage, which is supposed to sit right here on the model. And this is supposed to be the underside of our engine. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all comes together. But it will require quite a bit of cleanup. The fenders here, it's going to require quite a bit of sanding. As you can see how rough the casting is there, a little bit of flash. It's going to require a bit of cleanup there. The wheels all have their mold lines there, which are going to have to come off on the tires. You see here, the seats are also going to require quite a bit of cleaning up. So, got a little bit of work ahead of me here before we start mocking this thing up. One thing I did want to check was the fitment of this. Apparently it's supposed to go here with the smaller one there. We just want to mock up the chassis for a second as I'm looking to see how it all goes together. And that's a little bit of a tight fit there. Don't think that, no, that's exactly what they want you to do there. And there. So I do see that it's not a perfect fit for these parts there and there. Okay, here's our rear axle installed. And you can see that we're going to have to do quite a bit of work on this to get some of these parts to fit correctly. Alright, so we have started, guys. Let's see how well this comes out. Okay, we're working on the small scale group build Mercedes-Benz SSK. And one thing I wanted to point out about this kit, as in case you build it, which I don't know how many people actually ever will, because this is such an oddball little kit. The chassis is connected from side to side with these. Oops. Well, not by anything right now because I just dropped it. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. Found it.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, I hope this is not a sign of things to come on this kit. As you know, last year's group build didn't go exactly according to plan. But these little, what I want to call axle carriers, are supposed to insert. If you look at the instructions, which I will give you a quick look at it right now, the axle carriers get inserted into the two sides of the frame. Now, the only issue is that apparently the holes that they're supposed to go into in the frames are a little too small. So I want to show you what I'm going to do about that. And we're back. Okay, now what I'm doing is, here's the axle carrier. Very simple fix. You go inside and you just open up the holes using your hobby knife. And let's take a look here on this side. Yeah. Not a very good fit. So let's just do a little surgery here. We just take a little bit of excess plastic out. And there we have a perfect fit. Now let's do the rear. Again, not a very good fit. Now, let me see if I can show you guys the actual size of these. You can see how much larger it is, the enlarged hole, than the one that came with the kit. There. You see how I had to widen it up? So we're going to do the same thing here. Basically, we're just getting rid of a little excess plastic. And that should allow us to have a nice flush fit. There we go. That's what we want to see. We'll do the same thing over here. And there we go. Nice flush fit. Okay. Now we're just going to assemble the chassis really quick before we get to any sort of paint work. Here, let's take a look. We have to figure something out because I want to do something with this and to figure out how this is going to fit. Okay. We have one mounting pin here to secure the body and everything here. This only has one real locating pin here on the back that pegs into the back of the body here. This is not going to be as simple as it looks. As the fit is not very precise. I'm not sure if this is supposed to go inside or if it's supposed to sit there. And then that goes like that. Alright, let's go with a guess that that's going to go like that. And then this is going to fit somewhere in like so. Okay, so that does sit right there. And that's going to sit on the body there, and that covers up the mounting point for that there. Okay, I see where we're going with this. Okay, I do see where we're going with this. So there we have our body and our chassis together. So what we're going to try and do is, I'm going to try and make a drive shaft and a rear differential pumpkin in the back there. Just got to figure out how I'm going to do that. Time to do some thinking. Alright guys, this kit is not exactly the most well-molded kit in the world, so it's going to require quite a bit of prep work before painting. As you can see, I don't know if you guys can make it out on this fender, there's sort of a ridge on this fender here, which from what I can tell is not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be just a round fender, so I gotta kind of clean it up the same way I did here. The front fenders are not so bad, but I did have to do a lot of cleaning up around the edges of the fender to remove a lot of mold lines. So we're just gonna keep going. Okay guys, we're back on the chassis now. We've let this sit for a while, let it get really solid. That Tamiya glue is really good. Now, I showed you guys how the chassis attaches to the body. A loose fit at best. It's going to require quite a bit of work to get this thing together in a decent shape. So we have the body and the well, we're going to call that the chassis, and this is the frame. Now, this part of the frame goes here. Now, what are we missing? Well, a drive shaft. As you can see here, this is supposed to represent the engine. And I'm going to assume this would be the transmission here. Now, we have no drive shafts connecting the rear wheels. So, what I did was, I took a piece of round sprue, which is going to represent the pumpkin. And to that piece of round sprue, I connected a small universal joint that I got from another kit. This is actually from the Miami Vice Ferrari Testarossa. Miami Vice Ferrari Daytona. From Monogram. I had one here that I used as a test body, and it had all sorts of bits and pieces that were missing and broken. So hey, I just cut a universal joint out of it. So now what we have here is our pumpkin with a universal joint on it. And then we're going to take a small piece of aluminum rod and we're going to attach it. Or am I going to use the aluminum or the polystyrene? No, we're going to use the styrene rod. It's not going to be an exact replica, but it's going to look pretty good, I think. And we're going to install the rod there. It's going to be a very short drive shaft. And connect it to the transmission there. So that we will have a very short drive shaft, but at least it'll have a drive shaft. Unless, of course, I decide to... Thinking of cutting this section here and then running the shaft into there, which will give it a little more length to the drive shaft. I'm talking about another couple of millimeters, but I think it would look better. So then I would just seal that, and I think that might actually look better. Let me work on that. That might be a better idea, but you're gonna get where I'm going with this. So is it going to be a 100% accurate representation? Nah, not even close. But should look kind of cool, I think. So only one way to find out. So let's do this. All right, first thing we're going to do is attach the other half of the frame, since we already have our pumpkin installed, which we'll glue down to the shaft afterwards. Let's make sure we have our good fit here, and everything gets painted afterwards, so we're not too concerned with that. There we go. Yes, I did open that up. Okay. We're just playing now. We're just going to figure this out one step at a time. Oh, we have our frame going together. This is a deceptively simple kit where it looks like it'll be a piece of cake just to slap it together, but it really requires a little more thinking out and a little more planning to make sure that everything lines up where it's supposed to. And here we have our frame there and there. Now we have to make sure that everything will fit while it dries. And while that's doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to glue our pumpkin right there, lining it up with that transmission tunnel. Alright, so now it has sort of a rear differential. Alright, let's put the frame to the side. That's going to require a bit of cleaning up, and once all the glue is dried, luckily we have this nice deep well just ahead of the fuel tank, because I did learn that this is a fuel tank, and we have this nice deep well that gives us room to install this differential. Okay, there we go. That looks like it'll work. Yeah, you know, kind of cheesy, but hey, what the heck. And we are installing our drive shaft. Looks like that may need a little more work. Why am I making all these modifications to such a small little kit? I don't know. This can't seem to leave well enough alone. Okay, there we go. Now that's going to leave us much more room for a drive shaft than we had before. Okay, what do you think, guys? You think that'll pass? I think it'll work. I'm gonna have to open up the U-joint a little bit there, and but I think that will work. It kind of looks like a differential on the drive shaft, doesn't it? Now I have to open this up. Oops, open this up a bit more. I have to make sure that we can fit that in there nicely so that it just sits in between the flanges there. It gives it a good look. I just need to get this a little bit wider, and that is going to work right there. So you see what I'm going for, guys? We have the flange for the pumpkin right there, and then the drive shaft sitting right there. Just have to do a little work on the drive shaft now. There we go. That's a little more of what I'm looking for. And there we go, guys. Look at that. It's a perfect fit now. A little bit of paint. Now, only thing I've got to do is somehow dress up the sides here of the pumpkin. I really am going way overboard on this. Guys, I've got a problem. It's called too much detail, but I can't help myself. I do have an idea. Let's take our bonding. There we go. And once it's painted, it should look like, and I use the word should, look like a one solid pumpkin, which you can't see the underside of it, so hopefully you won't see how uneven it is. Now, the Bondo dries mostly clear. I mean, it has like a yellowish tint to it, or at least the one that I have does. But I've had this for years. This stuff would work great if it dried totally, if it was totally clear for making lenses. Now, can I get this thing finished in a month now that I'm sucked into my insane world of detailing? I have no idea. But this is one part of the model that was bugging me ever since I got it. Okay, I think that should be enough for it to have hardened. Let's see. Oh yeah. You know, this stuff really does work. I'm still surprised from time to time. Okay, now let me just show you guys why I did what I did. Let me see if you guys you see that? Now it's the instead of being squared off the way it was, once it's painted, it's going to look like a rounded pumpkin on the axle, which is a bit more realistic looking than what I had before. I may do a little bit of sanding on the edges just to round it off a little bit more, but I think that is going to give me what I'm looking for. I know you guys must think I'm nuts. Okay, I think this is where we're going to stop. As you can see, what I'm talking about when I say it looks a little bit uneven, it is. I didn't set it down perfectly straight, as you can see here. But since this will never be seen once it's in the car, so that's not really the important part. The important part is that we have to look at it here, and we'll see that it looks like a complete axle with the differential right in the middle. Even though even that's a little bit off, but this whole kit is a little bit off, so. But I think it's going to look pretty good once it's together. Let's take a look at it with the drive shaft installed. Let's put this together. And let's install the drive shaft through here. I'm only going to get one shot at this because I have to put a floor in this thing. As I know, I'm not going to be happy with okay, guys, that's going to be what we have when we're done. I think it looks pretty cool. All right, so we're going to keep going with this. All right, so our chassis is done. Our frame is done, or as done as it's going to be. Our body is ready for priming. Our chassis, what can we do with this to make this a little bit more interesting? Well, first thing we're going to do is we need to make a floor for this. I'm not really happy. Well, let's see. Let's put the seats in, and let's see where the seats are going to. Now the seat goes here. And with the body on it, you're going to see let's see, that is going to go there. You're gonna see the floor. Now, are you gonna see that gap in the floor there? Because you're not gonna see much of that. Hold on, let's put the rear seats in, then those just clip in there. One of the few pieces of this kit that actually fits the way it's supposed to. And then we're gonna have that there, and then we'll have our seats here. So yeah, we're gonna put a little carpeting in there. But let's take a look at our dashboard and see that's gonna sit there. So you are going to see a little bit of that gap there in the center tunnel. So we're going to have to do something about that. Okay. So we're going to have to do something about that. We're going to figure that out in a bit. Okay, but this is ready for priming. This is ready for priming. This is ready for priming. And have to do a little research. I will be back. Okay, guys, I was never too happy with the engine depiction underneath this car, so yes, I'm going to do something really ridiculous. I cut the lower half of the round shape here for the engine, and I'm going to try and make something here to look a little more like what I've seen in the pictures. Yeah, this is making horribly wrong. So I just took my saw, cut that off, and now I am got some styrene here, and we're going to try and make something that looks a little more engine-like. So see if this works. Okay, I am finally done. Been working for the last couple of hours on building the oil pan for the bottom of the engine, as I really didn't like what this thing had in it, which was basically just a big round bump here. You guys saw it earlier in the video. And so I decided, let me just build an oil pan and see if I can make this work. So I just finished with all of the carving and building and shaping and measuring, and here we have our oil pan for and bottom half of the engine here, where I even added a little drain plug. Added the oil pan has all sorts of fins here for cooling. So the only way that I could do that without going crazy and carving out tons of little fins was I took a little piece of photo etch that I have from another kit and put it on here, and it's kind of gives you the impression of the cooling fins there. I thought that looked pretty cool. Once it's all painted up, you'll be able to see the lines in it, and it should give it a nice look as a finned oil pan. So I'm very happy with the way this turned out, which was not easy considering this is such a small scale vehicle. So I've already modified the body as much as I can. Cut it in here. From the pictures that I've seen, the transmission is very short, nowhere near as long as the engine the way they have it here. So this from here to here is going to be the transmission. And the oil pan, I cut a notch in the part of the transmission here, and after removing the bottom half here, the oil pan just kind of slots right in on the notch and fits right in on the chassis just like that. I notched out these two braces here that actually came and met up with the sides of the engine, so that now they meet up with the sides of the new part. And here we have our oil pan. See the drain plug, all the fins, that's going to look pretty good. Detail paint the transmission there, and that'll be it for the transmission. I'm not going to fully detail that because it took me all afternoon just to make this. And I really didn't feel like trying to do that part. So we're going to leave that alone, and that'll be it. Now it's time to head off to paint. Okay, I lied. I couldn't just leave the transmission looking the way it was, so I just threw a couple of greebles on it, hoping that it would make it look a little more interesting. And once it's got some paint on it, it won't look so much like a, Christmas holiday ornament. So I'm hoping that these things dress it up a little bit, at least enough to keep it looking interesting. All right, now I'm going to paint. All right, guys, we're gonna take a look at the finished product of the items that we were talking about in this video. Here we have the frame completely done. You can see the frame itself is in semi-gloss black from Tamiya, while the diff, you see the finished product of the diff, except for the U-joint, which I'm going to be painting probably a different color. Maybe black, I haven't decided yet. You can see the springs are painted, the axle's painted, you can see the rear diff, and the final look that we're getting, which is pretty much what I was looking for. I did think of some changes I could have made after the fact, but that's pretty much what it's going to be for now. And you can see the front suspension. The springs are painted in the metallic. In steel, that is steel from Vallejo. And semi-gloss black from Tamiya. Those are the two colors used on the frame. So the frame is pretty much done. Now let's take a look at our oil pan. And here you see the finished product, painted in Tamiya titanium silver, with a little bit of burnt iron shading done along the edges just to add some shadows when it's installed in the car. Darken it up a little bit. Now we still have to do some panel line painting, which we're going to be running all the little lines in the oil pan there to highlight the fins and make it stand out a little bit more. Put a little something around the drain plug. And that's the result of all the work we've done in this first step. Now we've done a lot more as far as painting goes, and we'll cover that in the next video. Alright guys, see you on the next one.